There's a difference between loneliness and solitude, and Sigma males know it better than anyone. While most people run from silence, the Sigma runs toward it, because in isolation, he finds what the noise of the world could never give him: clarity, strength, and control. Solitude isn't punishment for him. It's his sanctuary. It's where he rebuilds after betrayal, where he plans after defeat, and where he transforms discipline into dominance. The world mistakes his distance for detachment, but it's actually preparation. Every quiet hour he spends alone sharpens his mind, hardens his focus, and disconnects him from the illusions that trap everyone else. A Sigma male's power doesn't come from crowds. It comes from what he becomes when the world can't reach him. Because solitude isn't his weakness, it's his weapon. If you've ever felt stronger alone than surrounded by people who don't understand you, this video is for you. Subscribe to Ultrawise for more insights into the psychology of silence, control, and transformation. And tell me in the comments, does your peace begin when everyone else leaves? Solitude is his reset, not his escape. For most people, solitude feels like punishment, an empty space they try to fill with noise, distraction, or validation. But for the Sigma male, it's the exact opposite. Solitude isn't a void he runs from. It's the place he returns to when the world becomes too loud, too fake, too chaotic to think clearly. It's not where he hides. In a world addicted to constant connection, he's addicted to disconnection, not because he hates people, but because he needs space to hear himself again. Every moment spent alone strips away the false expectations, the social masks, the energy-draining pretenses. In the silence, he rediscovers what most have forgotten: who he actually is when no one's watching. That's not escape. That's reset. When he walks away from noise, he's not giving up on the world. He's recharging his ability to navigate it with precision. Isolation sharpens him. It reminds him of his own rhythm, his own logic, his own code. While others lose themselves in comparison and approval, he steps back to refine his focus. He doesn't need to be seen to feel significant. He just needs to realign with his mission. In solitude, his mind becomes a forge. Thoughts that once scattered now form into strategy. Emotions that once distracted him become fuel. The more time he spends alone, the more dangerous he becomes. Not because solitude made him bitter, but because it made him self-sufficient. It taught him how to survive without applause, how to move without permission, and how to thrive without attachment. The truth is, solitude is where the Sigma becomes the most powerful version of himself. He doesn't emerge from it seeking validation. He emerges with vision. Because while everyone else is busy chasing attention, he's busy mastering his silence. And when he finally steps back into the world, he doesn't need to explain himself. His calm presence says it all. The man who's comfortable in solitude will never be controlled by noise. He finds clarity where others feel emptiness. Most people enter silence in panic. They crave noise. Conversations, notifications, distractions, anything to avoid facing the stillness that mirrors their thoughts. But the Sigma male? He steps into that stillness like a warrior entering his temple. What others call emptiness, he calls equilibrium. In the quiet, his mind doesn't echo with loneliness. It expands with insight. When the world falls silent, the Sigma starts to see things differently. He notices what others miss, the motives behind smiles, the patterns in behavior, the illusions behind success. The absence of noise sharpens his perception. While most drown in overthinking, he filters his thoughts like a strategist, separating emotion from truth, chaos from order. He doesn't need external validation to understand who he is. Solitude gives him the mirror most people spend their entire lives avoiding. It's in those moments alone, when the phone is off, when the world forgets his name, that his mind aligns with something deeper. He doesn't chase meaning, he listens for it. The longer he stays in silence, the more everything around him makes sense. He sees how people trade authenticity for acceptance, how society rewards noise over wisdom. And instead of resenting it, he simply chooses a different path. To the Sigma, emptiness isn't the absence of something. It's the presence of everything that truly matters. The clarity he finds there is almost surgical. It cuts through lies, self-doubt, and distractions, until all that's left is truth. In that space, decisions become easier, purpose becomes louder, and emotions finally fall into alignment with logic. Most people fill silence because they fear what they'll hear inside it. But the Sigma male understands that inner chaos doesn't disappear by escaping it. It dissolves when faced with awareness. And that's what solitude gives him. Awareness in its purest form. So, while others run from quiet because it reminds them of their confusion, the Sigma embraces it because it reminds him of his clarity. The world calls it emptiness. He calls it focus. And that's why, when he finally moves again, every step he takes cuts deeper, cleaner, and more deliberately than those who never learn to think alone. Isolation turns his mind into a weapon. When most people are alone, their minds turn against them. The silence becomes unbearable, thoughts spiral, and insecurities start whispering louder than ever. But for the Sigma male, that same isolation becomes something entirely different, a battlefield where his mind sharpens into precision. He doesn't crumble in solitude, he forges himself through it. Isolation strips away every illusion. There are no compliments to feed the ego, no crowd to blend into, no distractions to hide behind. It's just him, raw, exposed, and honest. At first, that honesty hurts. He's forced to confront his weaknesses, his fears, his past failures, but he doesn't run from them. He studies them. Every flaw becomes data. Every scar becomes a lesson. Every moment of silence becomes a test of endurance that turns into mastery. In isolation, the Sigma learns the truth about control, that real strength isn't about dominating others, but about mastering himself. He begins to understand that emotions can be tools, not traps. Anger can be converted into fuel. Pain can become insight. Patience can turn into strategy. Slowly, his solitude transforms from loneliness into discipline. The same silence that breaks most people becomes the sound of his evolution. While others waste time seeking constant stimulation, the Sigma builds an empire inside his own mind. His thoughts no longer wander aimlessly, they sharpen into weapons of awareness. He starts predicting patterns, understanding motives, seeing through manipulation. The longer he stays alone, the clearer everything becomes. Every lesson, every heartbreak, every betrayal, all of it turns into ammunition for the man he's becoming. So when he finally steps out of isolation, he's not the same. His energy feels different, calmer, sharper, unshakable. People sense it immediately. They don't understand how someone so quiet can command so much respect without effort. But that's the thing. His power wasn't built in front of anyone. It was built in silence, when no one believed he was even trying. Isolation didn't make him cold. It made him focused. It didn't break him. It made him immune. Because once a Sigma male learns how to weaponize his mind in solitude, no chaos, manipulation, or noise can ever disarm him again. He withdraws to reconnect with his inner code. When a Sigma male disappears, it's rarely random. People might call it ghosting, detachment, or coldness, but in reality, it's a recalibration. His withdrawal isn't about escape, it's about alignment. The world pulls at him constantly. Expectations, responsibilities, noise. And with every pull, a piece of his authenticity risks getting lost. So he retreats, not to disconnect from life, but to reconnect with himself. He has an inner code, a quiet, unspoken system of principles that guide every choice he makes. Integrity, discipline, truth, purpose. But in the chaos of daily life, those values can blur under pressure and distraction. Solitude becomes his reset button, a return to the foundation that makes him who he is. When he's alone, he doesn't need to explain his reasoning or justify his silence. He just listens to his instincts, his intuition, his core. In that stillness, he re-examines everything: his goals, his habits, his circle. He asks questions most people avoid. Am I moving with intention or out of habit? Am I growing or just surviving? This self-audit is brutal but necessary. He cuts ties, sometimes with people, sometimes with parts of himself that no longer fit his evolution. The Sigma's withdrawal isn't weakness, it's strategy. Every time he steps away, he comes back sharper, calmer, more precise. The outside world might think he's losing touch, but in truth, he's sharpening it, refining his sense of direction in a world obsessed with noise. He knows the danger of staying too long in the chaos. You start mistaking distraction for purpose. That's why he isolates, to remember what truly matters. People often misunderstand this process. They see his absence as apathy, his quiet as arrogance. But what they don't realize is that silence is where the Sigma rediscovers his power. The more he listens inwardly, the less the external world can manipulate him. He becomes anchored, unshakable in conviction, untouchable in focus. When he finally returns, it's not with explanations, it's with clarity. His presence feels different, deliberate, grounded, unstoppable. Because every time he withdraws, he's not escaping life. He's reprogramming himself to live it on his own terms. That's the Sigma's secret. Withdrawal isn't retreat. It's reconnection with the code that keeps him unbreakable. Alone, he hears what the world drowns out. Most people can't handle silence. They drown it with music, conversation, and endless scrolling. Terrified of the thoughts that rise when the noise fades. But the Sigma male is different. He doesn't run from silence. He walks straight into it. Because in that quiet, he hears what the rest of the world never will. The truth. When the world is loud, everything blurs. People's opinions mix with fears, desires with expectations. But when the Sigma isolates himself, the static clears. He starts to notice things most overlook. The subtle patterns in behavior, the tone behind words, the emotion hidden in a glance. What others mistake for intuition is really the result of listening, not to people, but to energy. Alone, he hears it all. The silence reveals uncomfortable truths first. The ones about himself, his mistakes, his patterns, the emotions he tried to outrun. He faces them without flinching, because only in stillness does honesty echo loud enough to change him. Then, as the noise of self-doubt fades, he starts hearing something even deeper: clarity. The kind that's not found in books or advice, but in awareness. He begins to sense which paths are authentic and which are distractions. He feels when someone's presence uplifts him or quietly drains him. Every sound, every silence carries meaning now. The longer he stays in this state, the sharper his perception becomes. Almost psychic. What others see as overthinking, he experiences as understanding. But this clarity comes with a price. Once he's seen the truth, he can't unsee it. The fake smiles, the empty promises, the shallow motives, all of it becomes painfully obvious. That's why the Sigma often walks alone. Not because he hates people, but because he can't pretend not to hear what they're really saying beneath their words. While the world drowns itself in chaos, he's tuned into something higher, intuition mixed with reason, emotion filtered through awareness. The quiet becomes his language, his sanctuary, his weapon. So, when the Sigma speaks, people listen, not because he's loud, but because his words are born from a silence that few are brave enough to enter. Alone, he hears what the world ignores. And that's why his truth cuts deeper than noise ever could. His self-discipline is forged in silence. Discipline isn't something the Sigma male was taught. It's something he built in the dark, when no one was watching. While the world glorifies motivation and quick results, he discovered something far more powerful: silence. The kind of silence where there's no applause, no validation, no one to tell him he's doing the right thing. Just him, alone, with his choices, his habits, and his vision. Every ounce of his self-control was earned in those quiet hours when doubt whispered louder than ambition. He learned that discipline isn't born from excitement. It's born from repetition. From waking up when no one tells you to. From doing the hard thing when no one cares. From building in private what others only dream about in public. The Sigma doesn't rely on hype. His strength grows in stillness, in the space where excuses die and consistency begins. In silence, he hears the friction between comfort and purpose, and he chooses purpose every time. It's not glamorous, it's not loud, but it's absolute. The world can't distract a man who's learned to find peace in structure. While others chase motivation, he follows momentum. He understands that control over one's emotions, time, and focus is the truest form of freedom. This kind of discipline transforms him. It sharpens his mind, hardens his will, and rewires his instincts. He no longer waits for the perfect moment, he creates it. The silence becomes his gym, his classroom, his battleground. Every hour spent alone compounds into strength that no chaos can shake. People often mistake his calm for detachment, but they don't see the war he's already won within himself. The reason the Sigma moves differently, speaks deliberately, and acts decisively is because he's mastered the hardest skill of all: consistency without attention. His silence is not emptiness, it's precision. But when the world finally notices him, it's not by accident. It's the echo of 1,000 quiet decisions made in solitude. His self-discipline wasn't gifted. It was forged, refined, and hardened in silence. And that's why no distraction, no setback, and no noise can break the focus of a man who's already mastered himself, when no one was there to see it. He builds power in the shadows, away from validation. The Sigma male doesn't crave the spotlight. In fact, he distrusts it. Where others chase recognition, he seeks refinement. While the world performs for attention, he disappears into the shadows. Not to hide, but to build. Because he knows that true power doesn't come from being seen. It comes from becoming undeniable. In those hidden hours, he's working, quietly, relentlessly. While everyone else posts their progress, he studies, adapts, and evolves. There are no witnesses to his grind, no applause when he chooses discipline over distraction. And that's exactly how he wants it. Validation is a trap, a drug that weakens the soul. Once you need it, you stop growing for yourself. The Sigma refuses that addiction. His solitude is his fortress, his workshop, his proving ground. He understands that greatness is not a performance, it's a process. The kind that happens when no one is paying attention. Every late night spent learning, every sacrifice made in silence, every setback faced without complaint, These moments form the foundation of a kind of power that can't be faked. He doesn't seek followers, he builds systems. He doesn't talk about change, he becomes it. The shadows teach him patience. They remind him that pressure creates diamonds, but only in darkness. While others announce their plans to the world, he lets results speak when the time is right. The Sigma's strength isn't loud, it's strategic. He knows timing is everything. Moving too soon invites attention he doesn't need. Moving too late means losing momentum. So he perfects the art of preparation, mastering every detail before making a single move. When he finally steps into the light, he's not looking for validation. He's already outgrown it. His confidence is quiet, his success effortless. People call it luck, but it's the product of years spent sharpening himself when nobody cared. He built power in silence, because that's where truth lives. Away from comparison, away from noise, away from ego. The world sees the results and calls it mystery. But the Sigma knows its discipline. He doesn't need the world to notice him. He just needs the world to feel his impact when he finally decides to reveal what he's built in the shadows. His solitude isn't loneliness, it's evolution. To most people, solitude feels like emptiness. A void they rush to fill with noise, company, or distraction. But for the Sigma male, solitude is the forge. It's where he breaks, rebuilds, and transforms. What others call loneliness, he calls evolution. Because every time he walks alone, he sheds another version of himself that no longer fits the man he's becoming. In solitude, he doesn't escape the world, he studies it from a distance. Away from opinions, he sees truth more clearly. Away from noise, he hears his instincts. And away from expectations, he reconnects with something far greater, his direction. This isolation isn't punishment, it's purification. He uses it to strip away everything fake, fragile, and forced, until only what's real remains. At first, solitude feels like silence. Then it becomes a mirror. It shows him his fears, his flaws, his desires, unfiltered and raw. Most people run from that reflection. The Sigma stares into it. Because he knows evolution begins with confrontation. It's in that quiet space that he discovers who he is, without the world's narrative shaping him. Over time, the loneliness transforms into strength. He learns to enjoy his own company, to create meaning without needing validation, to feel complete without external approval. That's the moment his energy changes. He no longer seeks connection from lack, but from choice. And the world can sense it. People are drawn to him, not because he needs them, but because he doesn't. His solitude becomes his signature. It sharpens his focus, deepens his intuition, and clarifies his purpose. It's where his next move is born, where his vision takes shape, where his future self begins to breathe. When he finally returns to the world, he's not the same man who left. His silence now carries weight. His presence demands attention without asking for it. That's the paradox of the Sigma. The more he isolates, the more magnetic he becomes. Because his solitude was never a retreat, it was a transformation. Every moment alone was a step toward mastery, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And when he walks back into the noise, he no longer fears being alone, because he finally understands that solitude was never emptiness. It was evolution all along. Solitude isn't the Sigma's weakness, it's his transformation chamber. While others fear being alone, he uses it to evolve beyond distraction, beyond validation, beyond dependency. Every quiet night, every silent decision, every battle fought in his own mind, it all leads to one thing: power. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that moves the world without saying a word. If you've ever felt that pull to step away, not to escape, but to grow, then you understand the Sigma path. It's not about isolation, it's about elevation. Every time you choose peace over noise, discipline over comfort, and purpose over approval, you're becoming more of who you were meant to be. So the next time solitude finds you, don't fight it. Use it. That silence you fear, it's shaping your next evolution. Subscribe for more deep insights into the Sigma mindset, where strength is quiet, growth is internal, and power is self-earned. And tell me in the comments, has your solitude ever transformed you into someone stronger,